Hey guys, and welcome back to Unapologetically Me, not apologetically me. I am your host, Brandi, and I am riding solo today. And I wanted to kind of give like a short quote unquote coaching session. And it's based off of a Instagram conversation, I guess you could say, that I had the other day with somebody about a reel that I had posted. And I wanted to kind of just go over some unhealthy and healthy conflict like ways to communicate. And so in this reel, I had posted it was the point of the reel was unhealthy conflict. And so it was a woman who was telling her husband or boyfriend or however you want to frame it that she was mad because he had been gone all day. She had been trying to reach him and couldn't reach him. She didn't know where he was at. And so while she's telling him this, she's basically saying, you did this and you did that and you make me angry and you blaming him for the whole scenario. And while she's talking, um, the other part of the reel is the person's on their phone, they're scrolling through their phone, they're not making eye contact, and then they say, "Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, like, you shouldn't feel that way, I told you what I was doing." And so both of the people's communication was unhealthy, because if I'm trying to tell you that I'm upset about something that you did, I should be using I statements. I feel scared and worried when I don't know where you're at all day and you don't respond. It makes me worry about you, and I don't like that feeling. So I'm not placing any of the blame on you. I'm saying how I feel because I'm responsible for my feelings. And then as the reciprocator in the conversation, you should be making eye contact. You shouldn't be distracted by your phone. Um, and anytime you say, I'm sorry you feel that way, it's like basically saying, I don't care about your feelings, which I'm going to get into the whole thing. But saying, I don't care about your feelings is just, it's very dismissive. And so every time if you say that, it just makes the conversation like that much worse. And just to rewind a little bit, if you are going to have a conversation that you're upset, the first thing that I would do is to let that person know or ask them like, "Hey, I have something that I want to discuss with you. Do you have space for that right now? Is now a good time to talk? Like, are you in a good headspace to have a conversation about something that's bothering me?" Because right away, that helps take away some of that distraction because that lets them know that I want your undivided attention while we discuss this. So that would be the number one thing that I would do before you even start that conversation. Um, so then, you have the conversation, whatever. So, okay, I forgot where I was going with that story. So somebody comments on that reel and they're basically saying how the first person who is placing all the blame is being manipulative and that person is wrong and the other person didn't do anything wrong. And I was really confused because I was like, the reel doesn't have anything to do with what the other person did. The other person being gone all day and um not answering the phone or whatever, it wasn't about what they did. The whole point of the video like that I mean, that's like a whole different conversation. The point of the video was about the way that they communicated about the situation. But the person went on to say, like, that other person was being manipulative and that they were in the wrong, which I don't disagree with that. I didn't disagree with any of that. Um, and then they were like, "You're perpetuating, like, this how society wants to be worried about everybody's feelings and how you're responsible for your own feelings," which again, I agreed with. So I was like, "I'm not sure, like, why you're still going on about this." This one thing I didn't agree with was when they said that you shouldn't because I said you accepting responsibility and acknowledging that somebody has feelings or is upset is two different things. And they disagreed with me. They were like, you don't have to acknowledge anybody's feelings because feelings change all the time. Again, I agree. People's feelings change all the time. So, but that doesn't mean that I don't have to, or not even say that I don't have to. It doesn't mean that I can't acknowledge that you have feelings and validate that you are feeling a certain way. That doesn't mean that I'm taking responsibility for how you feel. I'm simply, if you come to me and you say, I'm really upset because I couldn't reach you, I didn't know where you were at, and that makes me worry about you. Okay, I understand how that can make you worry about me. Next time I'll work on my communication. Nowhere in there did I apologize or say anything to say, I'm sorry for how I made you feel, because I didn't make you feel that way. You felt that way on your own. Like, I'm not responsible for how you react to something or how you handle a situation. I'm only responsible for my part in it. And yeah, I could have done better communicating where I was at. So I will work on that. That nowhere in there am I accepting responsibility for how you feel. I'm just acknowledging that you felt a certain way and I'm validating your feelings. So I've had people ask me, like, okay, well, if I get into a conversation and somebody is upset with me, how do I apologize without taking responsibility for their feelings? Or how do I like have the conversation without even apologizing? And my first thing is like, you don't have to apologize at all. Like, if you because I feel like if you apologize when you don't think you did something wrong, it can be manipulative on the other person's part because they'll just keep going, and I know because I've done this, like, I'll just keep going and going and going until you apologize because that makes me feel better. And it's not because it's a sincere apology, because a lot of times when you do that, the person ends up apologizing just so you'll shut up. They're like, "Okay, I'm sorry, like, shut up, I don't wanna talk about this anymore." And that's not the kind of apology that you want either. If you're gonna get an apology, you want it to be sincere. You want it to be because they don't like the way that they handled something, or they feel like that they did hurt you in some shape or form. So, my number one thing is like, you don't have to apologize. And apologies can also be manipulative. Something that like me and my brother have talked about in the last year is if you're gonna constantly say I'm sorry, or you're constantly apologizing, but you're not changing the behavior, then you're not really sorry. So that's also manipulative. Like, I'm just apologizing again, so you'll be quiet and so we can move past this. So if you're going to apologize, be sincere and change the behavior. Don't just say I'm sorry to get over the conversation and then turn around and do the same thing over again, because then you're not really sorry. And obviously it takes time to, I don't expect anybody to not make the same mistake again or not do the same thing again, but just don't apologize about it. Just do better next time. Um so anyways, going back to how do you apologize if you didn't do anything wrong? Like I said, you don't have to apologize. All you have to do is say, I understand. I can see why that would make you feel that way. I can see um, how that might not have been the best way to handle that. And you don't even have to say, but I'm not going to apologize for it, because then that makes the conversation go left too. You don't have to tell them that you're not apologizing. You just have to acknowledge and validate that they have feelings, not that you're responsible for their feelings. People are responsible for how they react to things and how they act. Reaction and action. Nobody's responsible for that except for you. And I think we definitely have gotten away from personal responsibility. Like, that's something that would be personal responsibility. Like, you can't control what anybody else does. You can only control you. I can only control how I react when my husband upsets me. I can only control how I react when my daughter does something that I don't like. Nothing that they did made me, and that's the key word there, is make me. Like, saying you made me do this or you made me feel that way. Nobody can make you do anything, or nobody can make you feel a certain way. You have a choice. You always have a choice. There's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Love that book. I talk about it all the time. There is a section in there where he's talking about, I think it was a student, and he told the professor that he couldn't go to class. I'm sure I told the story before, but he was told the professor, like, I can't come to class today. I have to work. I don't have a choice. And the professor was like, you do have a choice. You're just choosing to go to work instead. And he's like, well, no, I don't have a choice. If I don't go to work, and I'm elaborating or like exaggerating or whatever, because I don't know the exact thing in the book. So go read the book and you can find out for yourself. But it's somewhere along the lines of this, where, then the student says, like, if I don't go to work, I'm going to lose my job. And the professor's like, okay, well, if you don't come to class, like, you're going to get a certain amount off your grade or whatever. And he's like, you always have a choice. You're just choosing, am I going to get a lesser grade or am I going to lose my job? But there's always a choice. So you always have a choice in how you respond to something that somebody does. So I have an example that I had let me see how I can say this. I'll just use my own example. So the other day, my daughter misplaced my keys, and we had a basketball game. So like, I didn't know that she'd misplaced my keys. She usually puts my keys back in my purse. She had went to my car to get my keys, didn't put them back in my purse. I just assumed that she did. I didn't check. I was busy trying to get ready for the game. So we're getting ready to leave after the game. Mind you, I had already lost my phone that day or misplaced my phone, even though it was right next to me. I don't know. I was out of it that day. So anyway, I look in my purse to get my keys so we can leave, and my keys aren't there. So we spend a good hour looking for my keys everywhere. And I retraced back where she went. I asked her every place that she went in the gym, and we couldn't find my keys. So my husband comes back to the school for the second time because he had already came to help me look for my phone earlier. He comes back to the, gym. He's upset because he's just like, "It's late." It was like 9 o'clock, so it was late. He'd been working. He was tired. I was tired. She was tired. So he was upset. So it kinda turned into this big blow up because the communication was not good. Um, and it kind of turned into, like, the blame game where saying that I was responsible for my daughter not putting the keys back, and then of course, because I did not control my own emotions, I, like, just started going on about stuff that really was irrelevant to the topic of conversation to begin with, but I was just like, "I'm upset," and I started to leave because I was like, "Let me just go look for my keys." I didn't wanna argue, I didn't wanna say something that, like, I knew wasn't true because how often do we do that? And so I was like, "Let me just leave before, like, I say something that I shouldn't say." But then he said something that triggered me, and so I just kind of went left, and I knew when I was saying it, like, I need to chill out. I need to, like, just stop talking because I know what I'm saying isn't true, or it's exaggerated. So I was like, I really need to stop. So I left and went to go look for my keys, found them. They were in the weight room, the one place I didn't look because she never said she went in there. So I hadn't gone in there. So I was like, why would my keys be in there? I'm like, had I just looked in there initially, that would have saved so much trouble in so many ways. So, anyways, I find my keys, and I called him to let him know that I found my keys. And so we got into the conversation again about my keys being lost to begin with. And I just told him, like, I shouldn't have said what I said. Like, what I said was not true or it was exaggerated. And I was like, but I was triggered by what you were saying. And so then he said, I wasn't saying that in relation to everything. He's like, I was talking about this one specific thing. And he's like, I should have communicated that better. So, I mean, after that, we were fine. I went home, I was like, I did apologize because I was like, I know what I said wasn't true. Um, but then that kind of like started the conversation all over again. He's like, well, you really hurt my feelings. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm done. Like, I'm not talking about this anymore because I apologize. And like, now we're just going back to the beginning. So then the next morning, um, I think he apologized for, I don't know what. I don't really know what he apologized for. He apologizes all the time. He's good at it. I'm horrible at it. Um, but I think just in that conversation, I just was like, what I said wasn't true. Like, you are XYZ, whatever. Um, and just acknowledging that, and I didn't apologize for hurting his feelings. And that's where I was going with this. I didn't apologize for hurting his feelings, but I apologize for what I said because I know that what I said wasn't true. And so I just acknowledge that, like, I know that what I said, um, wasn't nice or wasn't like true or the best thing or whatever. So being able to go back and communicate that without okay, let me rewind a little bit because I did apologize, and I know I've been talking about apologizing. I apologized initially because I knew when I said what I said that it was gonna hurt his feelings, and I said it on purpose because I knew it was gonna hurt his feelings. So that is I didn't but again, I didn't apologize for hurting his feelings. I just apologized for what I said because I know what I said was wrong, but I still didn't take responsibility for his feelings, and that's the point that I'm trying to get across in all of this rambling, is that when you apologize, you don't have to accept responsibility for their feelings. Now, if you feel like you're responsible for their feelings because you were, like, trying to hurt their feelings, which I guess I did say that too, but I still was like, well, it was kinda true, so I don't know." Anyways, you just have to figure out for you, like, am I apologizing because I think I did something wrong and I purposely tried to hurt them, or am I apologizing because they want me to apologize? Or do I not need to apologize because not that you didn't do anything wrong, but maybe they think you did something wrong and you don't think you did something wrong. So just navigating that to make sure that at the end of the day, they're not manipulating you, you're not being manipulative in your apology, and that you are just working on having better communication and being able to communicate in a healthy way because people are so afraid of conflict that they will just give in or they won't say anything because they don't want to argue. Having a conversation doesn't have to be an argument. There is such thing as healthy conflict. You should not want to be friends or in a relationship with somebody who is a yes man. Like that's not going to help you grow in life. It's not going to help you get better at communication. And you're always just going to either, if you're the yes man, you're never going to have a voice. You're never going to get to express how you feel. If you have a yes man, you're never gonna know, like, nobody's ever gonna challenge you, and you can't grow if you're not challenged. So, the moral of this story and all this rambling is acknowledge feelings, validate them, don't use apologies as manipulation, and work on having healthy conflict. So, thank you guys for listening. Again, if you want a discovery session on working on your communication, you can go to my website, brandimosby.com, go to the services tab, drop down communication connection. You can see what I services I offer and what type of communication I go through. But healthy communication is key, and it's something that we definitely need to work on, especially with everything that's going on in the world today. So, thank you all for listening, and we'll talk again soon.